Hey everyone, and welcome back to another breaking news update. My name is Jimmy Boyd, and you were watching Boyd News. Want to thank you so much for tuning in today. I'm back with another update coming out from the war between Russia and Ukraine, and I've got a very big lineup of news to share with all of you today. Today's date is August 13th, 2025, and it's Wednesday. Welcome back to the channel, everyone, and I hope you're all having a wonderful day today. We've got a lot of big news to cover with this war update, so let's get right into this. We'll start out with a major story out of Russia's Bryansk Oblast, just up north of Ukraine, as last night Ukrainian drones or missiles, we're not sure which one it was yet. There was reports of missiles being used, but we did have a major oil pumping station that came under attack by Ukraine last night. And this is actually connected to the Druzhba oil pipeline, which is a major pipeline that Russia uses for its military. And they also use this pipeline to transfer oil flows over to Eastern Europe to countries like Hungary, Slovakia, Czech Republic, Poland, even Germany. And Ukraine went ahead and bombed this thing last night. You can see here in the video footage. So let's start off with this report here on your screen. Ukraine struck the Uneka oil pumping station in Russia's Bryansk Oblast. Damage and a large fire were recorded in the area of the support pumping station building, the military said, adding that explosions near oil tanks were also reported. So it looks like we had a massive hit here from Ukraine overnight, and I believe this same oil pumping station has been attacked several times in the past, and it looks like they definitely made a major hit here. You can see a lot of fire coming from that facility. I have another video I can show you guys here in just a little bit, and we'll talk more about that today. We also have reports that two other oil refineries came under attack also last night inside of Russia. That was the Volgograd oil refinery in the Volgograd region. And we also have the Slavyansk on Kuban oil refinery being targeted once again in the Krasnodar Krai region. Unfortunately, I don't have any video footage indicating whether any of those were hit, but we did hear reports that at the oil refinery in Slavyansk on Kuban in the Krasnodar Krai region, the officials over there were reporting that drone debris fell on the territory of the oil refinery, and that's the same refinery that actually Ukraine's been attacking at least two other times over the last week. So it looks like they're really trying to shut that thing down. Then we've also got a major update today that Trump has held a phone call with European leaders and Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky. We'll have more updates on that later today. They literally just had that phone call in the last 20 minutes or so at the time that I record this for you guys. So I don't have too many details on that just yet. Let's go ahead and jump into this. We'll hop on over here to Drone Bomber on X. It says approximate flight routes of our UAVs. Red arrow indicates directions of strike UAVs. All route information is based on Russian sources. So look at this massive attack that Ukraine carried out onto Russia last night. That's why it could have been possibly drones over here in the Bryansk region. This is literally just north of Ukraine's border. And the Uneka oil pumping station, I believe, is not too far away from the actual border of Ukraine and Russia. So you can see there was a lot of drones entering up into this area right here, completely covering the Bryansk Oblast. That could have been the primary target. And I've got fire maps today I can show you in that area of the Uneka oil pumping station, showing multiple fires that broke out. So you can see a lot of other drones heading up over this direction towards Ryazan, Tambov region. Not really sure what these were targeting. We don't have any reports up here in this area of any explosions or targets that have been hit or attacked. But again, we do know for sure in the Volgograd region, we do have a refinery over here located next to this major river in the Volgograd Oblast. You can see some drones were heading that direction. Apparently that oil refinery did come under attack, and then down here in Krasnodar Krai, we have the Slavyansk on Kuban oil refinery that did get attacked last night as well. And allegedly, we had at least one drone crashing on the territory of the premises of that oil facility. But right now, we aren't able to confirm whether those two were hit yet. But we know for sure the Uneka oil pumping station was attacked and directly hit. All right, now here's our first video from Nexta. It says in Russia's Bryansk region, a fire has broken out at the Uneka oil pumping station, a key facility of the Druzhba pipeline. Drones have also attacked Russian oil refineries in Volgograd and Slavyansk on Kuban. So here's that video footage coming out today, also showing a major fire that broke out at the oil pumping station, the Uneka oil pumping station connected to the Druzhba oil pipeline. And this is very big. I mean, we're not for sure yet. We don't have those details if it was actually shut down or not. But if it happens to get shut down, this is going to be huge and cause major economic loss for Russia. This is a major pipeline. It runs through Belarus on over to Europe and then also cuts through Ukraine. It like splits. I can show you guys a map here in just a second. So massive hit from Ukraine overnight. And again, could have been missiles that were being used. I wonder if it was even maybe rocket drones, because we've been seeing a lot of rocket drones heading on up to the Bryansk region recently over the last few days. Now from NOL reports, Russian media report that a fire has broken out at the Uneka Linear Production Dispatch Station in Bryansk region, the largest hub of the Druzhba oil pipeline network, one of the biggest and most powerful in the world. So here's a little picture to kind of show where this oil pipeline runs from. So here's Ukraine right here, and then on the northern side of the border of Ukraine is where we have the Uneka oil pumping station that came under attack. So it got slammed right there. So it's basically one of the last pumping stations before oil flows start to come out of the Russian Federation. It crosses through Belarus here on over through Poland over towards Germany. It also crosses through Ukraine, and as far as I know, this pipeline is still open inside of Ukraine. Heads on over here to like Hungary, Slovakia, and the Czech Republic as well. Okay, so again, going to be huge news if we find out that it has been shut down, and I guess we'll find out here maybe over the next 24 hours. But otherwise, it looks like it's going to be shut down, at least for right now, depending on what got hit over there, as there was a major fire that broke out. So we'll wait for more details on that strike. Now from Sean Pinner, NASA satellites recorded a significant fire on the territory of the GNPC Uneka in the Bryansk region, which occurred as a result of UAV strikes. So here's NASA fire maps coming out overnight, indicating multiple fires around the facility. The facility's right here in the middle, and literally about half of it caught on fire. Looks like the southwestern side of it was burning. You can see several oil tanks right here. I'm not sure if these were hit, but a massive fire here on the southwestern side of the facility. And looks like we had multiple other fires here. These could have been from drones maybe being shot down or something like that, but definitely a huge fire recorded here at the facility overnight. Now, for more translated, drones were also spotted in Volgograd. Russian media reports an attack on the Volgograd oil refinery, but the consequences are currently unknown. Overall, the occupiers' defense ministry claimed the alleged downing of 46 UAVs overnight. So I've got a video I can show you guys here. We're not going to watch the full thing because it doesn't show any explosions or anything like that, but just kind of indicating that there was drones going into the Volgograd region. We had some locals recording some of these drones that were entering into the Volgograd Oblast. Take a look.
Да
его не видно.
Да его и не видно будет.
Вот сука.
Вон звезда, ее не видно, и вон БПЛА или что-то, я не знаю, предположительно. Поэтому мы немножечко стремаемся и надеемся, что все.
Okay, we'll go ahead and stop it right there. So yeah, just a little compilation here of different videos of people recording drones flying through the sky. This man right here was also recording what sounded like a drone flying over his head, but we couldn't really hear, or couldn't really see, excuse me, the drone flying over him. You just kind of hear it crossing by in his area, and he's kind of complaining, hearing that this drone is passing by him above. Okay, so again, there was some drones entering into Volgograd region overnight, allegedly attacking the Volgograd refinery. But as far as we know, it hasn't been hit yet, but just came under attack last night. Now for Vicegrad 24, breaking. Thick black smoke is rising from a Russian Air Force helicopter staging site near Streletskoye in the Belgorod region of Russia after Ukrainian attack. So this video actually came out today, so I'm assuming this strike took place today. Sometime Ukraine carried out a strike over here in the Belgorod region. This is just over the border from Ukraine's Kharkiv region up in northeastern Ukraine. And allegedly it's like some sort of helicopter pad or something like that. Maybe a helicopter was being targeted and destroyed over here. And we have been seeing a lot of strikes in the Belgorod region recently. And I think we got another video coming up here in just a second from the Voronezh region, which is right next door. So it looks like Ukraine carried out a heavy strike over here inside the Belgorod Oblast. Now we've got this one from Visioner update in Russia's Donetsk region. Ukrainians struck a Russian military facility. So this video was actually coming out yesterday afternoon inside of Ukraine. Okay, so this took place before the Uneka oil pipeline pumping station, got attacked last night. But we had a Russian military facility also being attacked, most likely by drones over here in the Voronezh region. Again, just right next door to the east of the Belgorod Oblast inside of Russia. We had this major strike that took place. This video is pretty long. It just keeps going and it shows different angles up this fire. But definitely a massive hit here from Ukraine again. Now from Vicegrad 24, Zelensky arrives in Berlin for an official visit. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky has arrived in Germany for talks with Chancellor Friedrich Merz. They will join a video conference with European leaders, NATO Secretary General Mark Rutte, and U.S. President Donald Trump. So this was Zelensky getting off a helicopter here to meet with German Chancellor Friedrich Merz, and they were all going to be holding a major phone call with U.S. President Donald Trump. And I do have some information. I'll be able to share that for you guys in a later video today. And yeah, they did hold a major phone call today to discuss this upcoming meeting between Putin and Trump this week on Friday and discuss terms to end this war as well. And I do have some other updates regarding that. Now, from World Source News 24/7, breaking. President Trump says we'll be speaking to European leaders in a short while. They are great people who want to see a deal done. Yeah, that's what Trump said on True Social today, just prior to holding a phone call with European leaders and also Zelensky. That's what he said here. We'll be speaking to European leaders in a short while. They're great people who want to see a deal done. Okay, so just a little statement from Trump there. Now for Max 25, Trump is currently holding a conference call with Zelensky and several European leaders, according to Axios. Zelensky and European leaders held talks, according to Financial Times. And it says here, Zelensky is in Berlin with Merz. They were joined remotely by Macron and Starmer. So you can see lots of different European leaders were present during this phone call today. It was a kind of like a virtual conference that they did over the phone to discuss terms to ending this war. And we were hearing that earlier this week, that European leaders, along with Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky, were going to be meeting with Trump to hold a phone call prior to Trump and Putin meeting on Friday. Now from Jurgen Nonnet, Ukraine has 5 main demands for a war settlement, according to Politico today. A permanent ceasefire without territorial concessions. Ukraine is demanding compensation from Russia for the damage caused. The damage is estimated at between $500 million and $1 trillion. Long-term security guarantees, sanctions against Russia remain in place, the return of prisoners of war and children. Here's a report today from Politico. Ukraine asks in Alaska a lasting ceasefire, security guarantees, and billions in Russian payments. Kyiv is afraid to be left out of negotiations, while Trump might strengthen Putin just as Russia is beginning to feel the strain of the war. So these were most likely some of the key points that were brought up during the phone call with Trump and the European leaders. And I do have some big information on this later today, some long-term security guarantees. I think the U.S. was actually willing to give that up to Ukraine. According to Volodymyr Zelensky today, he made some statements after talking with Trump and European leaders. Again, I'll do a whole video on that later and give you guys as much information as I possibly can. But yeah, these are some of the demands from the Ukrainian side. So let me know what you guys think about that. Now from Kyiv Independent, Ukraine open to discussing aerial truce with Russia, Zelensky aide says. Russia is unlikely to abandon the use of strategic aviation or large-scale drone deployments, according to Mikhailo Podolyak told Corriere della Sera. Okay, that's that same Italian news outlet that was reporting yesterday that a Kremlin advisor to Putin actually came out and started revealing some of Putin's demands that he's going to be expecting to end this war with Ukraine. We talked about that yesterday. I did a whole video. So now we've got Mikhailo Podolyak. He's a Ukrainian politician and an aide to Zelensky, and allegedly saying that Russia's not going to agree to any kind of aerial truce, most likely. And I don't really see that, because we know that that Russia is expecting to produce more and more drones every single day. I think they want to produce like more than 40,000 drones of just Shahed drones this year. So I don't see Russia doing that. If they're making a lot of money off producing these drones and whatnot, I don't see them abandoning the idea of an aerial truce. Okay, they're most likely not going to agree to that, but there has been talks that Russia might be open to that, but we'll have to see what they actually decide to do. Now from Nexo, London has asked Macron and Merz not to comment on Trump's talks with Putin, the Telegraph reports. UK fears that public demands from Europe could backfire and provoke Trump to exclude it from the Ukraine peace process. According to Bloomberg, Putin's main goal is to prevent Zelensky from participating in the Alaska meeting. He rejected Trump's proposal for a trilateral format to avoid real negotiations. Kremlin hopes to push Trump into accepting terms favorable to Moscow and unacceptable to Ukraine, then blame Kyiv for derailing the peace process. The trip is also meant to highlight the failure of Putin's international isolation. So this was telegraphed today reporting this. Britain issues warning to Merz and Macron over Ukraine. Officials tell EU leaders that public demands could annoy Donald Trump. Yeah, so apparently Macron and Merz were asked by Keir Starmer not to really comment on, pretty much just let Trump talk today during this meeting of this phone call with European leaders and whatnot and Zelensky to kind of, prevent any backlash coming from the Trump side that they don't want to annoy him, basically. But aside from that, talking about this upcoming meeting between Trump and Putin, could Putin be setting up a scenario here where they try to force Ukraine to agree to some unacceptable demands, and then in the end, that's when the United States could turn around with Trump and say, "Hey, you know what? Ukraine is not agreeing to peace. Now it's all Ukraine's fault. Maybe we're going to withdraw weapons for Ukraine or intelligence or whatever it might be, and then this could really go south for Ukraine." A lot can really happen, but the Telegraph was also reporting that today that this could be Putin's plan to try to destroy the relations between the U.S. and Ukraine today. So we'll see how that goes when we see this meeting coming up this week. Now, from Visioner, a U.S. official told Axios, if Trump's rhetoric sometimes sounds pro-Russian, it is because he believes such public messaging will help achieve an agreement. Even if diplomatic efforts fail, Trump will continue selling weapons intended for Ukraine to NATO countries. For several months now, there has been a general belief that we could destroy Russia's economy tomorrow. There are also more ways to weaken Ukraine, but if Trump has to choose a side, he will start by bringing down Russia's economy. Okay, so this was Axios today. Apparently, a U.S. official was telling Axios some of these comments here. Now, I would take these with a grain of salt because there's been so many times that we've seen reports like that where, U.S. officials come out and tell mainstream news certain things. Then Trump will say something completely different. So I would wait for, what actually Trump decides to do, because really at the end of the day, it's up to him. But yeah, they're stating here that, for example, we might not see weapons and supplies going to Ukraine be halted by the Trump administration. They'll continue selling them to Ukraine, even if diplomatic efforts fail and whatnot. So yeah, just some statements coming out from Axios today. Let me know if you believe these and if you think Trump will actually abide to some of these statements today. Now for Bliskovka. Yesterday, Russia set a yearly record for the territory captured in a single day. 110 square kilometers, Institute for the Study of War reported. Statistics show that capturing such an area usually takes Russian forces 5 to 6 days, sometimes longer. Yeah, this is not good news. So, Institute for the Study of War is reporting today that the Russians captured 110 square kilometers in the Donetsk region of Ukraine just the other day. As I just reported to you guys yesterday that Ukraine was deploying reinforcements over here because 2 days ago there was reports coming out that the Russians were starting to really advance in the Donetsk region. They broke through Ukrainian lines over here. This is kind of the wedge they started to form when they broke out from this area around Pokrovsk right here. And apparently they could have also cut off a major highway that runs from here, Dobropilya, all the way over to Kramatorsk, which is kind of cut off on this map. It's another major city in the Donetsk region, and we could see the Donetsk region start to unravel very quickly and start to collapse. So far, Ukraine has been able to contain it from what we've been hearing. They've sent additional forces over here. An entire corps has actually been deployed to this area to stop the Russians. So, yeah, that's what Institute for the Study of War is claiming today. 110 square kilometers have been captured by the Russians in literally just one day. That's not good news. Now for Max 25, a mandatory evacuation has been announced in 14 settlements in the Donetsk region. This concerns families with children. So this isn't good news also. If they're having to evacuate people from some of these settlements over here in this same area in the Donetsk region of Ukraine, that means that the Russians really are starting to advance. And we've been hearing confirmation that even from Zelensky. He talked about it yesterday during his evening address to the Ukrainian people, that they have deployed additional forces over here. So allegedly it is confirmed that the Russians have been making some gains over here. And now we're starting to see settlements being evacuated. So that's not good to see. Now from Visioner, there is a real threat of the Russian Federation establishing control over the entire Donetsk region. The situation in the Pokrovsk direction is uncontrollable. The Russian armed forces see their success and will likely send additional forces there. Deputy Commander of the 3rd Separate Assault Brigade, Maxim Zorin. Okay, we've talked about him before, Maxim Zorin. So he's claiming that allegedly the situation is uncontrollable. That is not good news And we have been seeing some reports recently that Pokrovsk could eventually fall. Okay, Pokrov's going to be right in the middle here. You can see it's kind of a surrounded area. At some point, it probably will fall if the war continues over there. But Ukraine's doing everything they can to hold on to that city as a major transport and rail hub city. But now that the Russians are really starting to move forward over here in this area near Dobropilya, it's cutting off that major highway again from Dobropilya all the way to Kramatorsk over here. We can really start to see the Donetsk region start to collapse, and Ukraine's been trying their best to fight over there. So, yeah, according to Maxim Zorin today, he's the deputy commander of the 3rd Separate Assault Brigade, claiming that this situation is dire right now and could be unraveling very quickly. All right, now for Maria Drutska. Failed Alaska talks coming. Russia's foreign ministry says Donetsk, Luhansk, Zaporizhia, and Kherson regions are theirs. Moscow's position hasn't changed, and these are exactly the territories they plan to demand at the negotiations in Alaska. Yeah, this video is going to be a little bit hard to understand the way this man from the foreign ministry in Russia kind of words this, but he's pretty much saying that the Donetsk, Luhansk, Zaporizhia, and Kherson regions inside of Ukraine are pretty much enshrined in the constitution already inside of Russia, kind of indicating that it's their own territory. Take a look at this. It will have subtitles.
Здесь, наверное, не нужно даже изобретать чего-то. Территориальное устройство Российской Федерации закреплено в Конституции нашей страны. Этим все сказано. Поэтому, что касается целей российской делегации в переговорах на Аляске, то они диктуются исключительно национальными интересами. Спасибо. Здесь...
Okay, so with statements like this, it makes me think that we're going to see pretty much what happened at the Istanbul talks all over again, which is why I have to agree to some extent with Maria Drutska. I think it's possible we're going to see failed talks again. If Russia demands the same exact thing they demand to Ukraine at the Istanbul talks just, what was it, a month or two ago, not too long ago, then we already know Ukraine's going to reject a lot of these decisions, or demands from the Russian side, them claiming that they're not going to give up these regions. I mean, the war is just going to continue. So we'll have to see what happens. But that was a statement from the Russian Foreign Ministry today. They also made some other statements today as well. Here's one from Max 25. Russian Foreign Ministry says West's decision to enlarge NATO and to attempt to include Ukraine was one of the key causes of the Ukrainian crisis. Let me know if you think that was one of the major reasons why Russia invaded Ukraine. There could have been a lot of reasons. I'm sure it maybe have been part of it. Russia said many times they did not want NATO encroaching on their doorstep. But in response for attacking Ukraine, that's when we had Sweden and Finland joining NATO. Now NATO's border has expanded quite a bit just by Finland simply joining NATO. So let me know what you think on that. Now from St. Javelin, Russia and Belarus plan to rehearse the use of nuclear weapons and the Oreshnik system, according to Belarusian Ministry of Defense. Okay, so we know that Russia and Belarus are doing some joint military drills coming up here very soon. Some of the Russian soldiers have already arrived on Belarusian territory. And according to the Ministry of Defense inside of Belarus, they're going to be rehearsing the use of nuclear weapons and the Oreshnik system, which is that medium-range ballistic missile that was fired into the city of Dnipro in Ukraine back in November of 2024. Russia said they were going to be deploying that system over to Belarus. So we'll see what happens with that. Now from Bliskovka, Ukraine allies are considering a gradual easing of sanctions against Russia if a full ceasefire can be agreed, according to Sky News today. EU sources say that the plan involves quickly reimposing sanctions if there are any Russian violations. If the 15-day ceasefire is imposed immediately, sanctions will remain in place until a longer, more structured pause in the war in Ukraine occurs. All right, so according to this information from Sky News, I think it's possible that Ukraine and Russia are going to shoot for a 15-day ceasefire, so about 2 weeks. And on top of that, Ukraine's allies might start to ease sanctions on Russia if they agree to a ceasefire. But if Russia violates it in any way, they're going to be ready to reimpose the sanctions immediately if the war is going to continue and Russia violates the ceasefire. So I guess we could be expecting that 15-day ceasefire to start the negotiations between Ukraine and Russia. All right, now for Max 25, Besant on Trump's meeting with Putin. Could see sanctions or secondary tariffs go up if talks don't go well. Excuse me. So Scott Bessent, that is the U.S. Treasury Secretary under the Trump administration, and he came out saying that today, that if Trump and Putin meet on Friday and maybe talks don't go well, we could see sanctions or secondary tariffs go up let's say, onto India, or maybe some get placed onto China. I'm thinking China is going to be the least likely participant to get hit by these tariffs, maybe even Brazil as well. We haven't seen any action on those nations yet, mainly just on India, and the tariffs are not super extreme yet. Nothing like what we were hearing, 100 or 500%. So, yeah, so I think very soon we could see some sort of action coming from the Trump administration, maybe even onto Russia, if we don't see talks going well between Trump and Putin at this meeting on Friday. All right, now for NOAA reports, CNN reports that Trump and Putin will meet at the Elmendorf Richardson, a U.S. military base in Anchorage, that's in Alaska, chosen as the most secure venue despite White House reluctance to host a Russian delegation on American military grounds. So here's a report today from CNN Politics. White House lands on Trump-Putin summit location as officials race to prepare for historic Alaska meeting. So, yeah, that's where it's going to take place when Trump and Putin meet at the Elmendorf Richardson U.S. military base in Anchorage, Alaska. So, expect that coming up on Friday. Now, from NOAA reports, Latvia will contribute up to 2 million euros to a NATO initiative supplying U.S.-made weapons to Ukraine. Very big news, okay? Latvia stepping up big with 2 million in support for a NATO initiative supplying U.S.-made weapons. So that's another nation now. We've been hearing so many countries stepping up and doing that. Denmark, I think Norway, the Netherlands, lots of different nations stepping up, supplying weapons from the U.S., buying them directly from U.S. stocks for Ukraine, or U.S. industries, that is, not necessarily U.S. stocks, but U.S. industries, and supplying them over to the Ukrainians. So even Latvia now stepping up, joining in that NATO initiative to purchase weapons for Ukraine from the U.S. So that's huge, 2 million euros in support. Okay, now for Max 25, the occupiers are preparing for a powerful offensive in the coming months. They are actively transferring units and equipment to the Donetsk region. The negotiations now are a cover for a large-scale offensive, says the military Kirilo Sazonov. All right, so not good news. We've been hearing that. Zelensky was saying yesterday that the Russians are not preparing to end the war. They're actually preparing for new offensives in 3 different directions, and the Donetsk region is one of them right now, especially with the Russians making this major breakthrough. I'm sure that's going to give them some courage to want to launch more attacks down there, considering that in some ways Ukraine's defenses are looking weak with that major breakthrough that happened 2 days ago. So I think the Russians are going to be launching more attacks, and that's not good to hear. Because Ukraine's defenses are already fairly weak in the Donetsk region right now. So hopefully we don't see a massive breakthrough of Russian forces over there. We'll see how things go. Now for Visioner. Russia wants to end the war. Wants the war to end by 2026, says Ukraine's military intelligence. Vadim Skibitsky, deputy to Kirilo Budnov, says in an interview with Suspilnet that Russia's strategic documents clearly state the Ukraine issue must be resolved by 2026. This is primarily related to the very high cost of the war and economic problems within Russia itself. I mean, I'm surprised that Russia is even able to fight this war right now with the amount of economic damage they're taking. I can't imagine how their economy is going to look once this war actually does come to an end. And how quickly can Russia's economy switch back to a civilian-style economy again? Right now, it's just so heavily reliant on Russia's war machine inside of Ukraine. I can't imagine if this war were to stop abruptly, Russia could fall into a major crisis, an economic crisis in their country, maybe go into recession or something like that. So it's going to be very interesting to see how Russia's economy unfolds after this war actually ends. And it almost seems like some ways that's why Putin doesn't also want to end the war, because he can't, because if he does, the economy could possibly fall apart very quickly. So very interesting. He's stating here by 2026 that Russia apparently wants this war over with. That's really not that far away. All right, now from next up, Putin's residence is guarded by 12 air defense systems, according to Radio Free Europe Radio Liberty. 12 towers equipped with Panzer systems surround Putin's residence, only 5 times fewer than the total number of air defense positions in Moscow and the Moscow region, where over 20 million people live. So it looks like Putin is very afraid of being attacked, as he's constructing or having constructed certain towers that have Panzer S-1 air defense systems. You can see one of them right here. It might be a little hard to see. It's very pixelated, but it looks like there's a Panzer S-1 system right on top of a tower right here. Here's a little bit better of a photo that somebody was able to take, showing these towers with that air defense system sitting on the top of it. And so allegedly Putin is very afraid of being attacked. This is a map showing the different air defense systems located around Valde here, where his residence is located at near Lake Valdezskoye, if I'm saying that right, inside of Russia. And we know that Putin did actually move one of his residences before. He had his residence actually demolished down in Sochi. I think that was about a year or over a year ago, down in Sochi in the Krasnodar region of Russia. And this is because Ukrainian drones can reach down there. We've actually talked a lot about Sochi over the last week or so, as we've had reports of oil depots down there getting hit and whatnot. So because Ukraine's drones can reach over there, that's why he moved his residence. But apparently he's also afraid of drones reaching this residence as well, as he's got numerous air defense systems set up here deployed to protect his home. Now, from NOAA reports, Russia launched 49 drones and 2 ballistic missiles overnight. Ukrainian air defense shot down or suppressed 34 targets, including 2 Iskander-M KN-23 missiles and 32 Shahed or other decoy drones in the north and east. 17 drones hit 15 locations. So a total of 51 munitions going into Ukraine overnight. 49 of them being drones, 2 ballistic missiles were fired, and a good majority of them were shot down or suppressed, 34 out of those 49. So we have been seeing that Ukraine's been doing a pretty good job of shooting these down. And again, what we've been seeing is right about 40 to 50 drones a night going into Ukraine. Very low numbers compared to what we have been seeing. And a lot of this is due to what seems like Putin does not want to upset Trump by attacking Ukrainian cities, which is something we saw almost a daily before we heard that Trump and Putin were going to be meeting. Now, from the Kyiv Independent, these are the indicative estimates of Russia's combat losses as of August 13th, according to the Armed Forces of Ukraine. In our final update of the day, Russia's losses as of August 13th, 890 troops, 1 AFV, 46 vehicles and fuel tanks, 1 tank, 23 artillery systems, 99 UAVs, 1 MLRS, 2 cruise missiles, 2 anti-aircraft warfare systems. All right, so a lot of these numbers very low, but very big here. 2 anti-aircraft warfare systems being destroyed over the last 24 hours. We did have a report yesterday that a Buk M3 air defense system was destroyed in the southern side of Ukraine by Ukraine's Southern Defense Forces. But aside from that, I haven't heard any other anti-aircraft warfare systems being hit. But allegedly 2 were destroyed over the last 24 hours. 1 more MLRS. I feel like we've been having at least one of these, sometimes 2 per day that are destroyed. Aside from that, artillery systems, very low numbers, about 20 on average, usually what we see. Tanks and AFVs almost non-existent, only 1 each here. And vehicles and fuel tanks, one of the lowest numbers we have seen here in a very long time. Usually been seeing about 75 to 120 or so on average, so much lower today. And troop losses down a little bit as well, down to 890. We usually see closer to 1,000 or so. So there's your update regarding Russian losses today. And I hope you guys enjoyed this update today. So let me know what you think about all these details down below in the comment section. But that's going to be it for today's update. If you got something out of this, please smash that like button. Also, if you enjoy my content, please consider subscribing down below. Hit the notification bell. That way YouTube can notify you. And with that, hope you all have a great day. Everybody take care and God bless. And we'll see you in the next one.